60 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 55.
Part man.
Part machine. All pod. This minute begins with a close-up on a family photo and ends with Robocop entering arrest mode in the club.
In the club.
In the club.
So, the funny thing is, my first note is, I talked about it last minute. Halloween is not in this script. But I do like how... I brought it up a little bit. I do like the glitch transition. Like, the POV glitch transition, it really does help sell the audience on this idea that we're not just looking through Robocop's eyes, we're in his head. In his memories, and I do like the POV of the them taking the Polaroid. You know, I would love to see the actual out of universe where there's this Polaroid shot of like the kid, the mother, and the guy in the camera. I would love to see that, but yeah. My one first note is though, it's back when Polaroids were futuristic.
Yes.
Because they were pretty advanced at the time.
Oh no, I remember I had my little Polaroid camera. It was very 90s, Y2K aesthetic. I want to track it down, actually. I want to see what they look like now. But yeah, they were kind of long, the ones I had. And very sort of bubbly shaped. You know, everything around them was so curvy and jelly colored and jelly shaped, jelly bean shaped.
The jelly bean aesthetic of the early 2000s. Yeah, it's the iMac phase of design.
Yes. Exactly.
Everything has to be rounded corners and pastel colors, or yeah.
I don't understand why Murphy destroys the photo, though, because, is this Murphy or is this Robocop? Who is this right now?
No idea, now you say it.
I was just thinking, maybe he was so stripped back, so much of him was so stripped away that now he's starting to feel something, and it's confusing, and it's upsetting, and so, this is the source of my discomfort. I'm going to destroy this thing in this kind of primal way.
My reading has always been more of like, say, this is Murphy finally realizing, not necessarily what happened, but more of a, my family has gone. This is my family, and they're no longer here. It's almost like the rage before the idea that his family did love him as well, which is, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you finally see him starting to emote.
Yeah, because I think if he broke down crying in this minute and he clutched the photo to his chest, it's there's got to be rage, there's got to be confusion. He can't be at that stage yet. He just doesn't have the emotional sophistication
exactly,
or yet, depending on how you want to word that. Yeah, and I love when he's ramping up and he gets more robotic and he's swinging his arms.
Yes,
he's got that little tiny mouth. He's got the little tiny mouth going on. Ooh, I love it. It's so silly. Make that the picture for this minute.
Yeah, hang on, I got it. He's raging against the machine.
Oh, yes, but he is the machine.
He is the machine.
Irony.
He's raging against himself. Sorry.
Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
So I just remember it was about this time last year that some dipshit Republican was going on about how the lead singer-songwriter from Rage Against the Machine was doing some anti-Trump shit, or like anti-Blue Lives Matter kind of stuff. I think it was promoting BLM or something like that. And he was just like, I never would have thought the guy who wrote "Killing in the Name of" would be anti-cop. And it's like, do you realize that's what the song's about?
Oh, that's not the first time. But they love getting involved with these clueless institutions. So I think it was like BBC or some British thing. They had this like Christmas television event sort of thing, and it was a concert and all of that, different celebrities involved, whatever. And they got Rage Against the Machine. And they were told not to swear. And
Why?
obviously they got up to the part of the song of "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me," and he started singing it. And then they had to mute it, and the woman's voice was, "Oh, very sorry about that. We told them not to swear, but clearly they weren't listening." You invited Rage Against the Machine. What the fuck did you?
You literally got them to sing one of the most famous songs, which actually has the lyrics, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me," and you expected them to obey.
Like, if you wanted Katy Perry, get Katy Perry.
Yeah.
What clueless son of a bitch.
If you want the most sweet, inoffensive shit, you do not go to Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, for BBC Christmas this year, we've invited Tom Waits, Nick Cave, Rob Zombie. Should be really good family entertainment.
I would throw in Henry Rollins in there just for the shits and giggles.
Henry Roll. I was trying to remember his name, actually.
I'm a big Rollins fan.
He's fascinating. He is a character.
He is. He definitely is. And he has an open invite to any of my podcasts. Senpai Notice Me.
Yes. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, neither of us has got a celebrity on yet. I hope maybe one day. Maybe someone from Covenant. They're Australian actors, mostly. I could do this. It's fine.
I was going to say, we had a celebrity on. It was called Naha McGowan.
Oh, yeah. No, true. Fuck. How do we...
That's some podcast royalty right there.
You've never seen photos of him, but spoilers, he is actually Hugh Jackman. You wouldn't know. He's very flawless Irish accent.
I was going to say, you've never seen a photo of Niall and George Clooney in the same room together. That's all I'm saying.
No. True. Go listen to Bat Minute. Very good stuff. They've done almost all the movies now. They're getting towards the end of it.
Oh, and we have guested on there. This is a shameless plug. But we do have to talk about the...
I really have to tell you something.
Yes, and...
I love you. I love you, Simon.
Oh, thank you. We did mention last minute about the Maggie May Fish connection, and regardless of what you want to say about her reading or not, the thing I loved that she was the first one I've ever seen pointed out is how the different takes of the Ellen Murphy scene are slightly different.
Yeah, like the body language I didn't notice, but very subtly, and maybe the actress didn't even consciously know, but she knew going into each take, okay, be aggressive this time, be more playful this time, and so her body followed suit.
It could have just been one of those things where Paul just shot it several times, just not necessarily deliberately different takes, but sometimes that's the thing, as a director, sometimes you just want to do an alternate take, you want coverage, for example, but sometimes it's like, let's just play it at a different energy, and that could have been delivered. I didn't hear anything on the notes. They literally didn't even bring it up. I'm not even sure if they even consciously figured it. I would imagine if this was a specific thing, they would have brought it up, but they didn't. So it could just be one of those weird quirks of editing where they just used two different takes. Maybe the first take got spoiled somewhat and they couldn't use it, but they liked the emotive response of it. But yeah, it's interesting to have a flashback that happens in two different ways, because the Jimmy scene is verbatim essentially.
Yeah, and I think that also reflects human memory.
Yes,
we can view these. Once you say, for example, oh, my partner was having an affair, and then you start playing those memories back, and suddenly there's a new prism through which, a lens through which you're looking at it.
I wish I could remember, but there is this idea with memory that we tend to think of memory as recollection, like we're remembering a thing that happens, and it's always crystal clear. It's exactly how I remember it. But whereas a more modern idea of memory is about not less about recollection, more about putting the pieces back together. You're recalling fragments of memory, but you're also recalling, say, emotions of the scene. You're piecing together the scene less. This is why, memory recollection is starting to be taken like out of the equation in court proceedings, because people's memories aren't that good.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely getting aware of that because just to briefly say, I am dealing with a lawsuit against my doctors who allow me to transition without going through the proper steps to do that, and yeah. You realize how quickly you have to watch what you're saying because you go, "Oh, did they really say that?" Or am I wording it in a way that's misleading? And oh my god, yeah, you don't notice how much you are not speaking precisely.
It's an interesting thing you bring up about breach of contract is that it's always one of those things where you have to read a contract because you have to agree to the wording essentially with a contract. And also, interpretation is a thing. This goes back to the fundamentals of, like, say, criticism in regards to media. It's always about a read. Circling back to Maggie May Fish. So she has this video, which is a transgendered read on Robocop, talking about his femininity versus his masculinity, and like the idea of these two personalities inhabiting the same body as an analogy to transgender people. My take for Robocop has always been the human versus the machine. That's always been the take I take from this. It's the idea
That's the most direct, intentional one.
Yeah, I think that's the filmmakers.
Yeah, I said in the last episode, there is this sense of femininity, but and I want to just delve into that a bit more, that we associate domesticity, family, comfort, say, with this softness, with this femininity, and we don't often regard masculinity and fatherhood in that same regard, even though, you can have that relationship with your dad. There are dads who hug their kids, kiss their kids well into adulthood. But by and large, toxic masculinity, a lot of fathers, especially in the Western world, don't feel comfortable with that. And so I think this scene, whether intentionally or not, does enforce a lot of those patriarchal ideas of who is allowed to be that comfort, who is allowed to be that emotional vulnerability, or, women often end up having to do the emotional support and lifting that weight that a man doesn't know how to deal with on his own.
To support that theory in context of the movie, if we look at it, say, as OCP stripped out, not necessarily deliberately stripped out the femininity side, but stripping out the humanity, and part of that humanity is his relationship with his son. A very friendly relationship. There's actually in the the whole thing of the gun twirling comes from this whole thing where he's just trying to be a good role model for his son.
Yeah, that's the thing. He is not a distant father, which is great.
And I think that's why I say the Halloween part is a crucial moment you can't get rid of, because that also reinforces that idea that the close bond this family had together has been severed.
Yes,
it wasn't, I'm a guy that's working overtime, I never get to see my family. No, he was there with his family when they're waving him away as he's in the flashback as he's dying. It's not a sad scene.
They're smiling.
Yeah, it's taken to be sad because of the context clues, but with Murphy dying. But it's not like, to compare it to the Monday one, like, Robo Flag had a loving family? Question mark.
Yeah.
They got on well enough. But
they existed in the same. I had more of a relationship with. I had more of a relationship with some of my, housemates.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. But no, what I wanted to say, going back to this feminine masculine dynamic, it is women every single time that allows Robocop to regain his humanity and feel his emotions. It's
call.
Lewis, it's his wife. It is never a male character who plays a role in his redemption to humanity. So while he isn't...
Ooh.
Well, okay, so Murphy is not a toxic masculine character.
No.
But Robocop is. So I think what we're seeing here... This is my reading on it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I agree.
A man who was vulnerable, who was very comfortable in a domestic setting. He was an active father, a participant in this household.
Yeah.
Now he has been forced into this very repressive, toxic masculine role. You are a weapon. You are just a cog in the system, basically. And it is only women that allow him to regain that humanity again.
Well, I want to bring up another piece of supporting evidence, mostly because I just want to talk about Sage Parker again. It's actually Tyler who brings up the moment where we've managed to save the arm, and it's Morton is just like going, "No, we can do what I want."
Yeah, she's the only one who shows any kind of compassion.
Yeah, and she's also the one that kisses Robocop on the visor? Question mark,
Yes.
question mark, question mark? Assuming he's not just a head in a jar at that point, or brain in the jar at that point. So, yeah, it's... I that reading, I think, is very spot on in that context. I think it's... that's brilliant. That's... I can't argue for or against it anymore. You're solid.
Yeah, I think it took me a while to figure out how to word it, though, because Maggie May also talked about this masculine-feminine dynamic. It's like, yes, it's there, but how do I... how do I put it into words?
Well, you got to remember that while there's been trans people, or if you want to use like two souls or other words like cross-dressing, or there's always been people who have been outside of gender normative stereotypes.
Gender non-conforming people. Yeah.
As long as there's been recorded human history. Trans narratives, as they exist today, are relatively new. So it's hard to push back and say this is something that was intended almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's a great reading in regards to gender roles and all that other stuff. And how great is this movie for layering of different things? And damn.
Yeah, I think what I've learned, especially doing the Ridley Scott movies, is what makes movies so worth thinking about and discussing is actually maybe especially when it doesn't have a very pointed message. It actually wants to just muse. Musing is a great thing that a movie or any story can do, where it's like, I'm playing with these ideas of gender archetypes and roles and how we fit within these pieces.
Yeah.
And that allows you to, 40 years later, keep revisiting this same story, drawing totally new things. Because the worst thing a story can do is tell you how to view it.
Yes, it's the hammer over the head storytelling thing. That's a lot of modern day things as well. So it's like, we have to tell you exactly what you must feel. They just hammer you over the head.
And I think actually a lot of queer stories or minority stories or representation suffers from this because it has that sort of hammering you over the head, corporate decision. No, show these people, as any other kind of character.
Well, this is one of those interesting things where you look at how minorities have been treated in the past. So typically, before there was stories about minorities, superhero genres, especially especially action genres. This is why minority people tend to look at the non-white characters as ways to express themselves through media. That's like, for example, Disney queer coding all their villains for the longest time was the only reason how queer people could relate to Disney movies. That's why, characters like Ursula from The Little Mermaid, who has a direct connection to what's her face? Divine, yes. And the LGBT queer community, all of them love Ursula. And she's a great character, let's just be brutally honest.
She's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So it's weird how a lot of representation used to be negatively coded in a movie. They used to be the villains. But it was the only thing they had. And this is why it keeps... Again, speaking of Disney, like the every year it's like Disney releases first gay character, and it's just, and it's literally a character that can be edited out to ship, so because they want to sell it to China.
No, give me 2 Disney princesses. Fucking do it, cowards.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, as a lesbian and who's had all sorts of other, being part of minority groups all my life, I'm constantly looking for, I think that might be a gay character. Oh, she might also be. And Janine. What's it? She played Vasquez in Aliens. And she says,
yes, I know who you're talking about.
can't remember. But yeah, she says, I've had Latina women Latinas, redundant, come up to me. I've had lesbians come up to me. I've just had gender non-conforming heterosexual women come up to me and say, you did such a great job representing me. And, especially when it comes to the sexuality side, it's just, she will never say what she thinks Vasquez's sexuality is. And I think that's a great thing because... For me, it's very important that Vasquez is a lesbian, but maybe for a heterosexual woman who is non-gender conforming, Vasquez is also very important. So that ambiguity is also very nice.
Before we were recording, I was listening to the GoldenEye episode of Kill James Bond.
GoldenEye.
And
yes.
They basically said, God damn it, Famke Jensen's character, Onatop. I can never remember her first name.
On a top.
And they go, she just has major trans woman energy. And it's just like...
She does!
Yeah!
Now you mention it.
And I still adore Famke Jensen, and that character is still one of the best Bond characters ever created.
She can crush me with her thighs any day.
I totally agree. But it's interesting, like, again, had to be a bad guy and still kind of had to find James Bond hot.
We don't see any kind of queerness in Robocop. And even like with Lewis, I actually haven't even considered her sexuality until now. No, I don't even care. Like, I just love her the way she is. She's perfect.
We got one bit of queerness in Robocop, and it is the bathroom scene with Dick and Morton and the hair grab.
Oh, yeah. True.
Very loaded.
Yes, it is.
How Dick moves his hand to Morton, he's very sexual predator. And it is a power play, obviously.
Yes, not to tangent too much, but it's getting back on track. Maybe technically, I don't know how you want.
I don't know if we're tangent or not anymore.
Where are we? So Halloween. Do you think it needed to be? Was there a reason why they chose of all family events? Not a birthday, not a Christmas, Halloween. Do you think there's a specific choice there?
Because it's about being someone else.
Yeah,
it's role
I guess
play.
It has to be, yeah.
It has to be that. I don't know. That wasn't in the commentary. They're talking about this, and definitely wasn't in the script. I think it's a little bit of a play on the idea of, like, Halloween is about dressing up, being something else, being otherworldly, this whole idea of character and play.
And we should mention that, that Murphy and his wife are not in costume.
Yes.
So that
or
also,
are they?
I'm wondering. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Maybe they're playing as husband and wife. Ooh. Oh no, it's the week after Spooky. Damn it.
Oh no. But yeah, I do think these things must have been considered, especially a movie that is so considerate. I don't think it does these things just by accident.
I don't think there is any lazy decision making in this movie whatsoever.
No.
This movie, especially this scene, screams intent. Going back to what Paul said a few minutes ago in the commentary, he didn't storyboard this scene. He knew what he wanted, and he knew what he wanted to shoot. So
I love that in a creator, and this is something that it's annoying that, I'm not wrong, but a lot of creative schools, so design, film, fashion, whatever, they want you to do a lot of planning. And I hated that, because as a creative person, you tell me, okay, I need you to design something like this within this framework. Okay, I've already got an idea. No, but you have to draw 10 different versions. No, I don't want to draw 10 different... I know.
Oh, design iteration.
Why are we wasting...
Fuck, I hate that. I hate that so bad.
Yeah, it's so counter to how creativity naturally works, which is where... First thought, best thought, you feel it in your soul that this is the one.
Oh, I will disagree to a degree.
Disagree to a degree.
Didn't mean to say that, Ryan. Because I want to talk about my own creative flow. So I like having a plan. I like developing concepts. I like having a plan. For example, just in this folio, I need to have 15 shots, and I had to try and make a narrative. So I had to plan out each step of the way, because I had to tell a story in 15 shots, beginning, middle, end. So setting down my thoughts, I had an idea of the shots I wanted to do, but when I made a shot list, it wasn't like I made a meticulous plan of framing, like this thing had to be there, it has to be in this thing, and it had to be sectioned off into quadrants and blah, 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 blah. I did it just a very basic shot list, explain. The idea is, this is part of the assessment as well. You could give that shot list to anyone and they can shoot what you wanted.
Yeah.
In filmmaking, because it is a collaborative process, and you are, let's say, for example, you got second and third units. So if you need someone to shoot something, you need to plan it out. In this case, Paul had an idea, but he didn't storyboard it. It's actually a risky thing to do, because unless you're a very competent creator, you can lose the scene. Like, from structural problems to just shooting. This is also a very complicated scene. If you actually notice, a lot of the shots don't match between the fade-ins and fade-outs.
Oh.
I will pin that on not having a storyboard. Literally not having that kind of degree of planning. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because the shots work and they work together.
Yeah, I mean, you can have that Lynchian approach. I always mention David Lynch, but he's someone I'm very fascinated by, and he does tend to... Well, he's a painter, first and foremost, and I watched a documentary about his history with painting, and that's where he's really coming from, and explains a lot why his work is the way it is.
Yeah.
And painting is very much a solo thing.
Yes.
And so he brings that to directing as well. I mean, not that he's not collaborative, but he just tends to be like, this feels right. Do it like this. Let's put this in the background. Why? It feels like we need it. You should be impressed that I didn't use my David Lynch impression just then, by the way.
No,
I love breaking that one up.
I feel free to have as many impressions as you want. But as a painter, he's thinking compositionally. He's thinking about the board of the frame, how things fit in the frame. I can relate. I'm more of a conceptual I do like event photography and stuff like that, and my brain is like, thinking about headlights, lights and stuff like that. So I'm thinking of the technical things. But when I'm shooting for a artistic event, I'm thinking about composition. I'm thinking about object placement. I'm not strict to a certain degree, but I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about depth of field. I want to see I want to have some things in focus, some things out. You're not just going, I'm taking a photo. You're there going, I'm trying to say something with a photo. And that's where the planning really does kick in and go, I need to do it. But they were really trying to hammer this thing about mood boards and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
You want to have a texture to convey the emotion of I don't want to fucking do that. I'd rather go, this is the shots, this is the shot ideas, this is kind of what I want. If I can convey that, I'm fine.
My last note for this minute is 80s neon nightclubs are what I live for. I don't know where that aesthetic originated. And I've been watching. So I have an Instagram. I don't promote it enough, but it's The Greatest Regeneration, and I'm living through the 1980s in chronological order. We've just nearly finished 1981. Can't believe it's been a year almost. And it's fascinating to see where visual styles come from. In 1981, it's still pretty 70s.
Yeah.
We don't quite have... You got lasers. The 70s fucking loves lasers. Freaking laser beams. But the neon thing, it's slowly coming through, so I'm not sure where it really originated. I mean, it's the technology, the actual neon lights, and how they were used in urban spaces. They were quite controversial, actually. Initially, conservative Christian groups were like, they represent sin and evil and, just nighttime activities. It's like, it's a light, bruh. It's a light to come down. But, there's this look, there's this aesthetic that is so distinctive, but it just can't come from nothing, And I love looking at the origins for these aesthetics. So, no, Robocop didn't originate this.
No.
Terminator didn't even originate this.
No.
I don't know where it's originated. Maybe in my my Instagram research I will find out where it originated, but
It
it's
was
sort of
it was Professor Douglas Neon.
of course. But yeah, like there's that Xanadu real 70s disco. There's those neon lights. It's a very different aesthetic. So yeah, I guess it just slowly emerges culturally.
I've been trying to figure out lately where the 90s finished and the 2000s began, and all the way to 2020, because I really just think,
When Daria was cancelled.
yeah, like fashion trends haven't really changed that much in the last 20 odd years. Like, culturally things have changed.
No. Things have really slowed down,
It's
and
almost
now kids are dressing
stagnated.
like it's the 90s. So, yeah, like, for the past 10 years, technology, fashion hasn't really changed much.
Technology has reached a point where it's less about the speed of the technology, which is actually reaching a point where it's getting physically hard to get faster. Just literally
Physics is stepping in, saying,
fucking
no,
bastard speed of light problems.
God never intended for you to download that much porn onto a mobile device.
And god damn it, I'm going to test that theory. Anyway, but it is interesting that, like, you know, whereas things like, say, we've almost been stuck in a bit of arrested development when it comes to all of this cultural stuff. Like, mass media is also very interested in just regurgitating the same shit. It's always...
Oh, yeah, for the past 20 years or so, I'm very aware of that now, having done the greatest regen. That the 80s were a time of, I mean, 80s had its remakes, but those remakes tended to be so different from the original, you didn't even know it was based on something else. The Thing, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas, the 90s, it becomes a little bit more, what do you call it? Postmodern. The 90s is definitely a huge period of postmodernism. So it's starting to satirize and criticize and re-envision.
And then all of a sudden it just became, let's just keep remaking the same shit, sequelizing the same shit.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Like,
nostalgia bucks.
the 90s had a bit of cynicism, so it was doing something with this remaking. And then, I don't know, somewhere around the mid-2000s, there was maybe a particular movie about a man in an iron suit, maybe, that,
Oh, it
I
was
think
before that.
Yeah, no, probably. But that definitely shifted things into high gear.
That shifted it into the realm of franchise.
Yeah, so that's what I probably say. There's a lot of capitalizing on existing names all through the 2000s. But yeah, after Iron Man, I think it was just like, let's grab every IP we can and do something with it.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, all the YA stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
God, yeah, the YA, I don't know what you want to call it. It wasn't a revolution, but yeah, the Twilight phenomenon leading to the Hunger Games phenomenon to the next, Divergent for 5 seconds. Lindsay Ellis just did a really good video about that, or like, you know, how like YA kind of just fell flat in its ass.
Yeah, everyone because I think it hit at the weirdest time in history where everyone was trying to grab these IPs thinking it was going to be the next Twilight, and other than maybe 50 Shades of Grey, none of them were. Not a single one.
Which technically was the next Twilight.
Yeah, none of them were. Because they were gambling on the wrong thing. It's the same thing with the .com. Burst.
The dot boom.
What do they call it? Boom, yeah. And then it crashed. Because
The
everyone
bomb.
was just they didn't understand what they were investing in. They just went, oh, internet thing. Yes, put money in it. No, it's not how that works.
No. Before we get too far ahead, because I think we're getting to a really good segue about the excessive use of power. But I do have some more notes, because this is the last time...
Unlimited power.
Unlimited... Oh, God. Speaking of franchises, just won't fucking die. This is the last time we'll see Angie Bowling in this movie, who plays Ellen Murphy. She becomes a bit more of a character in Robocop 2. Apparently she's in Robocop 3. I have zero recollection of that. But she is still working to this day, and she's even currently filming a movie called 13 Tracks to Frighten Agatha Black.
Okay.
It's like her first movie since 2017, although she hasn't been working that much within the last decade or so. But yeah, it's nice to see that, she's still got a lot of credits under her belt. Sadly, no Star Trek. I kind of had a little bit of a, fast forward on the IMDb searches for any Star Trek references. I've not been able to find any, so I think
It's been a while.
It's been a while, so I think that whole thing is officially dead until maybe we get to another movie. But yeah, she's still acting. In the commentary, this scene with Ellen Murphy is almost radically different in interesting ways. The script has Murphy's wife say, "Jimmy needs new clothes for school. ... The Websters want us to come to their party. ... And ... Hey, you look sexy in that shirt." The stage directions are: she drops the road and steps into the steaming shower. She turns in the door. She turns in the door? That's what it says.
Okay.
What I do like is the book, especially in this scene, really goes heavy onto not just the whole the sexiness, but it's also about this. It's classic novelization padding, but it's done really well. It's about the psychological effects this is having on Robocop. It's obviously they can't convey it in the same way, so it's really about what's going on inside Robocop's head during this thing. In the book, particularly, he has more flashbacks. It's almost like it's a repetition of the death scene. So, things are starting to go haywire in his head. He's having more flashbacks, and then he starts having flashbacks to his death. But what's really weird is that towards the end, I'll read this. Robo raised his arms in a cross before him to ward off the wind and the howling banshees dancing across the sky. Suddenly, he was staring at a cross in the cemetery. He heard sobbing. He squinted at the cross. There are words on its base. Alex Murphy, beloved husband and father. It's like, I'm guessing he just imagined his own funeral?
So, actually, that's a good question. Is there an Alex Murphy tombstone somewhere? Does the family think he's dead? Did they have a funeral?
Well, there wouldn't be much. Well, there would. They probably cremated him because there probably wasn't much left.
There was enough body, yeah, true.
Well, they at least didn't have an arm.
Yep.
Oh god, that's dark. That's really dark.
Beautiful.
So, the line I love from Paul, it's so simple. I love you, Paul, but he just says trick shots are very simple. Again, this is him explaining the transitions. But this is a bit I think is particularly really relevant. So Ed goes on that it's actually Paul who added the "I love you" to this scene, and because it wasn't in the script.
I think it's so important. It adds so much more.
Yeah.
And being able to compare the two scenes and going, oh, okay, so what's the truth? What's he remembering? What's he imagining?
Yeah, I like that. It's almost radically different to the original script. I mean, obviously it's quite less horny. I mean, it's still kind of sexy.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be sexualized.
No. I completely agree. Just having it in the bedroom and her in a dressing gown is just enough.
Yeah, it's suggestive enough.
We didn't need to have a POV of them boning. I'm not saying that's in there, but I do like the mundaneness of the original script. Like, it's just... just
mundanity?
Yeah, I was trying to remember if it was mundanity. That word.
How English work? English is dumb.
How
anyway.
Quaint. Yeah, I do like it's how mundane the conversation is, and it just goes, hey, sexy kind of at the moment. But
yeah,
having the repetition of this particular scene in the context and everything, it just makes it so much stronger. And hats off to Paul for this. Ed does say that it reminds him of an Elizabeth Taylor movie called A Place in the Sun, where at the end of the movie, the main hero, I think he's going off to die, and he gets kissed by Elizabeth Taylor, but she fades off into nothing as he walks out into the sun. That's how he describes it. I've not seen it. So I'm not sure if that was a deliberate reference or not, but it's obviously something. Ed starts talking about the disco scene, and apparently that they had to fight to keep it, but it got cut off, so we'll definitely pick that up later. And speaking of fighting scenes, no, that's a shitty segue.
Gaslighting Robocop.
Alex, how do you feel? I feel fine, Dr. Norton.
Here we go. Minute 59 begins with Murphy in his recharge station and ends with information overload.
This I think was one of those scenes where I knew I was going to hate this film. And this is still burns really solid in my brain to the point where I forgot that Lewis was actually in it. But that's the other thing. Like, Lewis turns up and is like, yeah, we're going to go kick some bad guy butt. And then it's just like, and then Robocop goes to sleep in his chair. Oh, poor Petal.
Yep.
But,
yeah, so we've got this big presentation. The whole world's going to be seeing our unveiling of Robocop. At the last minute, let's do this experimental thing and upload to your brain all of the information, all crime information everywhere. And we're going to expect this to work fine. We're not going to do test run. Nah, just strap yourself in, Murphy. Let's go. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, this leads to my comment. If Omnicorp had the resources to compile all this arrest information, ...
Why weren't you doing anything with this information?
Exactly!
Sitting on your asses, I guess.
You just went, oh yeah, we've got this algorithmic program that can sort through all of New York's surveillance footage with arrest records, and you only now using it to plug and play into your freaking CEO's goddamn political toy? Mm-hmm. A bit of dialogue would have fixed this. We've got an experimental piece of software we were developing for the military, but we now decide to upload it to you to make you a more effective crime fighter. Oh, look, that just solved your major issue with having this piece of software that could solve crime fighting in 5 seconds. You don't need a Robocop, you can just arrest all these people!
The AI could just do it. The AI could just send out a letter being like, by the way, sorry, you're arrested. Just hand yourself in.
It's not even that. It's called now Division of Manpower. You've got a police force. Here is 700 arrest warrants. Go.
That's the point, actually. The modern Robocop would literally just be this AI that sends the human police out to actually do the physical arresting.
I know it wouldn't make much of a movie, but they introduced this.
This remake actually highlights the issue of, and they lean into it where they're having these discussions of what is the point of putting a man in a suit. You know, it's 2014. Why do we need an inferior human to do what machinery can do unassisted? It's the same. It's an inversion of what we saw in the original Robocop, where machinery, AI, it's not quite there yet, so you definitely need a human behind the wheel. You don't in 2014.
Well, you gotta remember the setup was all about how Americans won't accept that you put a robot in charge of the police force. You gotta we only trust a human Robocop.
Only humans,
because only humans can make the right judgment call, except for the fact that how many, especially highlighted in recent times, bad judgment calls human cops make. You fucking
time.
God damn, this movie's fucking terrible. Just on so many levels.
I think it was made too early, and I wonder in the current political climate, post Blue Lives, Black Lives Matter, all of that controversy. What do you do with a Robocop story?
Yeah, it almost would be like having a modern day Robocop movie as a reflection on what's been going on. Like, how do you do Robocop nowadays? Well, same sort of storyline. There's been political upheaval. There's been all this stuff. There's been this massive cry about police brutality. How about we make a police officer that is sanitized because he doesn't have a personality. He doesn't have emotional conflictions. He creates the most rational decisions when dealing with a person. He has detectors so he doesn't accidentally murder people by standing on their necks, and then either have that go wrong or see how that gets evolved to the next nth degree.
It's so laughable to me that the 2014 movie is more dated than the one from 1987.
Exactly.
Primarily because what did they decide to make this story about? Fucking drones. Who gives a shit? I can go buy a drone. You see fucking 7-year-olds with drones in the park. Who gives a shit? You know, they really backed the wrong horse there.
It's not even about drones. It was more about a criticism of Steve Jobs and Apple corporate America, which again
Also that too, yeah.
could work.
Well, it starts off with like drone warfare and then Steve Jobs bad.
That was more of a dig at fucking Obama than anything else, who loved his drones.
Yeah. And then, yeah, now, because of, Black Lives Matter and how everything has changed and how openly critical we are of the police, of how bad police officers have been taken care of, and they're finally getting their, comeuppance.
Or even just the idea of reforming the police into less of a militant force, which is a massive problem in America. Not so much over here where we are. And we still have cops with guns and stuff like that. We still have institutional issues.
Yeah, where does Robocop... You know, they unveil Robocop in a world that's very against this militarized police.
Yeah.
You know, where does that sit in that scheme of things? That could be quite funny, though, if you go for, a more satirical, and it is Robocop, a more satirical take, where Robocop has to just be the most sanitized, generic Disney character, basically.
He has to be Robocop to Robocop. He literally has to have the list of directives that are like 40 pages long, you know. You really have to go that far. Jesus Christ, even Robocop 2 is a better movie than this.
And also that we're dealing with a very vocal public now, that everyone has a voice, everyone's got a camera, everyone's recording. That could also, that doesn't come up in this at all.
Yes.
That people are going to be whipping their phones out, highly scrutinizing this Robocop, this product.
Yes.
There's so much.
Yeah, you want to have a go at Steve Jobs and the idea of like Apple taking over the world with the surveillance and all that. Make it about that. Make it about how, like, you know, issues regarding, you know, a corporate overreach with the public, with the iPhones and the interconnectedness and all this other stuff. None of that's there. None of the stuff that would really truly make this particular movie shine. None of it's there.
But it's so much fun to discuss all the things they didn't do and how strangely dated. 2014, I mean, it's getting up. That's why it's like 7, 8 years ago.
7 years ago.
Nearly 8, nearly 8. Still,
it's less than a decade old, and it was pointless to begin with. It's pointless now.
It was always, it didn't come from a very motivated source of... say, for example, the remake of Christine, that's going to be done by Brian Fuller, who can talk for hours about Christine. He is obsessed. He named his first car Chris. So, like, that's someone who is coming in and saying, okay, I actually have something. He did the same thing with Hannibal.
Yeah.
I have something to say about this.
Exactly.
You know what? I hope that in the next few years, someone does another Robocop remake that we can discuss.
Yeah.
Someone who genuinely wants to do it. I think there's a lot you can do with this premise. I don't think it's... I mean, you'll never surpass the original film.
And I don't think you should.
No, and it's a very political, very topical premise.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can still do with it.
These aren't new messages in Robocop. These aren't brand new takes on things. I think the corporatization was very much a thing of the 80s. Like, you know, we go back to Cyberpunk, and so Robocop wasn't the first thing to do this. But it's like any good storyteller will take a concept and hone in on it, refine it, make it work. This movie has nothing to say. It really doesn't. It's a surface level.
No, it's fascinating how nothing. It is just nothing. It has nothing to say at all. It's fascinating.
It thinks it has something to say, and it says it very loudly, but it really isn't saying anything. And that's the thing. America's use of drones in warfare during the Middle East is a phenomenally good subject that they can't just throw under the rug.
It's just an opening scene. Hey, isn't this interesting? Anyway, moving on.
It's just literally an issue that we can get to. Oh, and this is the reason why we need a robot cop. We need to put a man in a tin suit because people don't like the robots.
Yep.
It's just no. No, make it something a bit more than that.
All right, so that's all my notes.
Yeah, I'm kind of all raged out.
Yeah, we've raged against the machines,
Yeah.
all the machines. So where can we find you, Simon?
You can find me at Fandom Crossing and Helios Photos. I do technically do Kung Pao Enter the Minute. Hopefully that might start up again soon as this year draws to a close.
Honestly, having hiatuses, man, they're a great idea. I hadn't had a hiatus in like 5 years and realized I really do need one.
I didn't want to have a hiatus, and then, life got busy, and I'll be perfectly honest. I won't say I'm astounded that we're still, we're now at, minute 50? We've been doing this for over a year. Pauses not included.
Crazy.
52 weeks in a year, we're at 55 episodes for a weekly show. We've been doing this for over a year. And I'm glad we've kept doing this. I really enjoy talking to you about this movie. I really enjoyed this movie.
And getting an excuse to talk to each other each week. I feel like it's so hard to catch up with people unless you've got a podcast.
Yeah, that's it. Podcast is the best way to communicate with a lot of friends. It's also, we've picked a great movie to talk about, and we've also picked a terrible movie to talk about.
Yes.
But more importantly, where can the lovely viewers find you?
TravianDesigns.com, Patreon.com/TravianDesigns, The Greatest Regeneration on Instagram, or Courtney and Ivy, if you just want my own personal things. Courtney Colson on YouTube. Yes, that's everything.
And you can always check us out on Simplecast, Spotify, Apple, Google, all your lovely tip. Well, if we're not on your podcast, how are you hearing this? But check us out on all the podcasting venues. They should have us. We're also on YouTube. Not that people check that out either way, but either way, it doesn't matter. Like, care? Yeah, please like and care us. We desperately need it.
Yeah.
Like, share, comment, subscribe. Yeah. All that lovely algorithmic nummy juices that feed, that go directly into Steve Jobs' corpse, and where he just controls our lives from his secret underground bunker. Yes, this has all been about the conspiracy that Steve Jobs is alive and a zombie that leeches off of us.
Until next time.
Robocop in the name of...
Yeah!
Raging against the Robocock.